But I want to start out by talking about Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley and what's his name, Lincoln Chafee. Let me just say up front two things. One, because the next president will almost certainly select 3 or 4 new members for the Supreme Court. And because the Supreme Court, in my opinion, illegally, but still, has seized so much power for itself that it is now not only striking down laws made by Congress, but inventing laws that were never approved by Congress. In fact, are in violation of the will of Congress. Congress passed campaign finance reforms after the Nixon scandals, and in 1976, the Supreme Court struck them down in the Buckley versus Vallejo case, or struck down about half of them, by saying that no, spending money on politics is protected by the First Amendment. It's not. But if the Supreme Court says it is, then that becomes the law of the land. Now, the Constitution doesn't say that, but the Supreme Court says that, and everybody accepts it. So I don't want to get into a big debate about the Supreme Court, but my point is that, well, let me start back at the beginning. I'm wandering far afield here. My point is that because the Supreme Court is so powerful and so important, this next election, we all have to not just get out and vote for the Democratic candidate, whether it's Hillary Clinton, Martin O'Malley, Bernie Sanders, whoever, but we have to do so in huge numbers. Because the Republican Party, I mean, the Koch brothers have now hooked up with Shelley Adelson, and you've got now 3 people who have a combined wealth of over $100 billion to make sure that a Republican is elected president. And you got a Supreme Court that has said, you guys can take as much money as you want and make him president. And they're talking about this being a $5 billion presidential election, $2.5 billion on each side. It could be twice that. So even if you don't like Bernie Sanders or Martin O'Malley or Hillary Clinton or Lincoln Chafee, if one of those people or anybody else becomes the nominee of the Democratic Party, it is vital that we work for that person and we get that person elected. Now, that said, I get it that a lot of people are very dissatisfied with Hillary Clinton. You know, some of them just don't like her husband. They don't like the NAFTA stuff. They don't like the, you know, I didn't inhale, the equivocation. I mean, Hillary's doing it right now on trade. Well, you know, I want to see the trade agreement. Well, I'm sorry. You can't see the trade agreement until after Fast Track is passed. And she didn't say a word about Fast Track. So, you know, it's already kind of begun. I don't like that. But I will still vote for her because the Supreme Court is at stake. I mean, I could give you this list. This was posted over on DU back on the 10th. And I'm sorry I don't have the name of the poster because it printed out on the second page and that's all I kept. But the headline is, "No, I'm not ready for Hillary." And it's just a list of votes comparing Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. Bernie voted against the Iraq War. Hillary Clinton voted for it. Bernie voted against bailing out Wall Street. Hillary Clinton voted for it. Bernie voted against the Patriot Act in 2001. Hillary Clinton voted for it. Bernie supported federal recognition of gay marriage before he became a presidential candidate. Hillary didn't. Bernie voted against the 2001 bankruptcy legislation that locks in student loans and all these other things. Hillary voted for it. Bernie supports clemency for Ed Snowden. Hillary does not. She thinks he's a criminal and he should be in jail. Bernie has introduced legislation to allow medical marijuana. Hillary Clinton has in the past opposed that. Bernie opposed bombing Syria. Hillary Clinton at least appears to have supported it. The administration she worked for, anyway. Bernie supports bringing back Glass-Steagall to separate investment banks from savings banks, and Hillary Clinton opposes that, or has historically. Bernie opposed SOPA. Remember SOPA and PIPA, the Patriot Acts for the internet? Hillary supported those. Bernie opposed those. Bernie opposed the NDAA, which gave the military the power to indefinitely detain U.S. citizens without trial. He voted against it. Hillary voted for it. Bernie voted against the 2006 legislation to create a border fence between the U.S. and Mexico. Hillary was in favor of it. Bernie opposes the death penalty. Hillary supports it. Okay, those are, there's clear differences between the two. And my personal preference is that in every single one of those cases, I fall on Bernie's side, not Hillary's. That said, though, here's what we have to understand. Because the Supreme Court is at stake, and a lot of other things. I mean, the damage that Republicans would do if we got a Republican president, privatizing Medicare and Medicaid, probably amping up the drug war rather than dialing it back, sucking up to big corporations. It's unimaginable, the damage that could be done by a Republican. So people say, well, but we really need to be calling out Clinton on this stuff. Here's my concern. Conventional wisdom in politics, and you'll hear a lot of pundits pontificating about this, is that there are these people called swing voters who sometimes vote Democratic and sometimes vote Republican because their politics fall in the middle. It's a lie. There may be a few people who I would call actually low information voters, uninformed people, or idiots who just, sometimes they vote Republican, sometimes they vote Democratic. But the vast majority of people are either soft Democrats or they're progressives. And people who identify as independents are too progressive for the Democratic Party. We had Mike Papantonio on the other day. He says, I'm not a Democrat. He's too progressive for the Democratic Party. They're too conservative for him. And similarly, on the Republican side, you've got a bunch of people who say, yes, I'm an independent. I'm a Tea Partier. I'm not a Republican. They're too conservative for the Republican Party. So if you want to win an election, it's not about the swing votes. That's stupid advice that John Kerry got and that Al Gore got from Bob Shrum and people like him. Go for the independents. Move to the middle, right? That's stupid advice. Reagan didn't move to the middle. George W. Bush didn't move to the middle. Bill Clinton did not campaign in the middle. He campaigned on the far left. What you have to do is activate your base with great enthusiasm. And so in this next election, whether it's Hillary or Bernie or anybody else, we still have to get out there because there is no such thing as a swing voter. But there are base voters. And it's the base voters who very often don't even call themselves Democrats or Republicans who actually decide elections. And the Supreme Court is at stake. And that's huge. So no matter how you feel, and I'm very concerned that a lot of progressives are spending a lot of time beating up on Hillary Clinton, like going through the list that I just went through and then just raging about it, which I'm not going to do. I mean, we have to acknowledge there are these differences. But, wounding a candidate with the base, which is what talk radio talks to by and large, I think is a very dangerous business.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Now, you could call me a pragmatist or you could call me a cynic. I think I'm pragmatic. I don't think I'm cynical. I think I understand this process, and I never did before, frankly.